All right, it was a Week 1 win for the New Orleans Saints, 16-15 win over the Tennessee Titans right here in the Superdome. Always good to get a win in Week 1. It was not pretty. It was not perfect. We're going to break it all down. Talk about just an incredible performance the defense had in this game today. Coming to you from the mobile Turo Hospital studio here in the Dome. I'm Brooke Kirchhofer alongside Nick Underhill and Mike Triplett. Wasn't pretty, but they're in the win column.
Yeah, they got the job done. That's really kind of the only thing that matters. And if you need to get the job done on any of your medical needs, check out the LCMC Medical Network. They'll take care of you, whatever you got to do. Start every day with PJ's Coffee. They're our presenting sponsor. They'll get your day started with the best coffee that you can find in the city and the best in the whole entire Gulf Coast region. Matt Bowers, if you need a vehicle, go check him out. They will get you taken care of. That's where we buy all of our cars. The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. Are you looking for the perfect engagement ring? Look no further than Friend & Company Fine Jewelers' new engagement salon. This new area houses a wide selection of engagement rings to choose from in all cuts, sizes, and colors. Their experienced staff offer 5-star customer care to help you find the perfect ring to express your love. Visit their new engagement salon today. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, the perfect ring for the perfect moment and also for the perfect person. 7713 Maple Street between Adams and Burdett Street. 504-866-5433. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Check them out at friendandcompany.com.
For fast relief coffee.
Mike Hoss here. When the AC goes out and it's hot outside, every second counts. For over 40 years, Keefe's AC Heating and Electrical has helped thousands of families stay cool in the sizzling hot months. Keefe's Get You Cool in 3 hours or less guarantee is what our customers love the most. On the North or South Shore, call Keefe's. We'll get you cool in 3 hours or less guaranteed.
Keefe's Air Conditioning and Heating.
And now electrical.
For fast relief, call Keefe.
Moe's Barbecue is located in Metairie. They have your game day needs taken care of. Whether you're tailgating or watching the Black and Gold or LSU at home with friends, Moe's has you covered. Order pulled pork, wings, ribs, sides, and more. Come in with the family for lunch and dinner as our kids' meals will please even the pickiest of eaters. Tailgating, parties at home, lunch and dinner, Moe's Barbecue will handle it all. Moe's Original Barbecue, 1101 North Causeway Boulevard between 48th and 49th Street in Metairie. Call 504-407-5333 for your catering order today. 504-407-5333. Moe's Original Barbecue in Metairie. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. All right, let's get into the show.
Let's get into our lead topic presented by Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers is excited to announce the opening of their new engagement salon, which has a wide selection of engagement rings to choose from. And while you're there, ask them about their fleur-de-lis earrings that you see I have on now, as well as the necklace. They are specially priced for our NOF listeners. All right, let's get into the lead topic, which is the 3 interceptions. The defense was just incredible in this game. They've been talking about takeaways since the season ended in 2022. It has been top of mind for the defense throughout OTAs, mini camp, and training camp. What a way to start it with 3 interceptions.
Yeah, it felt like kind of like a masterclass in defense just overall. But yeah, getting the turnovers is so huge. They had 14 total last season. They got 3 today. They're basically like, I'm not that great at math, but like 30% of the way through last season's total. And look, they were timely. They came when they needed them. And I guess any point in this game they needed one because it was just that tight start to finish. It felt like they couldn't make a mistake. They had to steal possessions. And if they hadn't stolen those possessions, they probably would have lost the game. But it was a huge performance. I'm kind of blown away by how well they played. And really, it's not just the secondary. They're going to get all the hype, all the guys making those plays. Like the front showed up so well. They had pressure. by my count, and we'll see how it holds up like when we actually go back through and watch this game, but I had them on like 22 plays like with pressure. So they were just back there the whole entire time, and every time there was a pick, you go look, there's one of these big guys up front barreling in on
every
Ryan
one
Tannehill.
of them. Yeah. I was going to say that too. A direct assist from somebody in Tannehill's face on all 3 of the picks. Really 4 turnovers. That's how DA counted. That's how I counted 2 with Zach Bond with the block punt too. So it was really and they needed every one of them. The biggest surprise to me was not a good game for the Titans' new offensive coordinator, because you've got Derrick Henry, who was effective today. How they put Ryan Tannehill in a position to be making those throws and losing a game that was a 1-score game the entire day blows my mind. But yeah, if you are a quarterback that is not an elite quarterback in this league, this can be a tough defense to go against this year.
You know how things are going your way? Like, it's just when, like, a turnover just kind of happens for you and the ball just shows up in the right place. Like, when Isaac Yadom is coming into the game because Marshon Lattimore is leaving because he's gassed and he creates a turnover, like, that's when things are working for your defense.
Crazy. Ugo Amadi came in, too, for Allante Taylor, and they didn't miss a beat. Look, 10 third-down stops in this game for the defense. You mentioned Derrick Henry was effective. The reason why he was under 70 rushing yards, though, is because they were stopping him on the majority of plays, but they just, for some reason, kept going away from Derrick Henry, which is surprising. They were just trying to force an area that the Saints were not letting happen. Like DeAndre Hopkins was not a factor thanks to Marshon Lattimore. We're going to get a little bit more into Marshon Lattimore's play a little bit later, but no touchdowns. What a start for this defense, which, as we've known, like the Saints have always, since Dennis Allen has been here, not even as the head coach, as the defensive coordinator, they want to hang their hat on their defense. They started the season off doing that. Now it's, can the offense respond? But were there any holes in this defense in this game?
I don't think so. And, I mean, they were situationally just absolutely excellent. You mentioned the third down, 0 for 3 in the red zone. Like, when they needed to make plays, they made plays. There were a couple breakdowns, maybe a couple big plays, but, like, overall, you're going to have some of those. Like, so a step below absolute perfection, but they weren't giving anything up. I was extremely, extremely impressed. And this is kind of how DA's defenses were every single year. Last year, they were kind of, shut down, but not like – some of those games last year, you would look at it and you'd be like, man, like those were the numbers, because it didn't feel like that hollow. This one just felt like, they wrapped around the neck and just kind of choked them out.
And it felt like, that's okay, defense is back on the field, offense will get the ball back. I mean, it never felt threatening. Now, Derrick Henry, there were a couple drives where they stuck with him, and it would be like 2 plays and a first down. It'd be 5-yard run, 5-yard run. Or he obviously had like the 56-yard screen pass or whatever the distance was on that. And there were a few times where I thought, well, if they commit to it, maybe they're going to churn their way down the field. I don't know why they didn't commit to it. The biggest statement made by the Saints defense was the one Mike Vrabel made, though, when he decided right behind us. I was stunned, but a testament to what his offense couldn't do against the Saints defense with 2:30 left in this game or whatever. They needed 3 or 4 yards to gain the first down, and he took the field goal to stay down by 1 and give the Saints the ball back with 2.5 minutes to go. It's like 3 or 4 yards against the Saints defense felt like an impossible task, and I guess we have to agree with him, because I don't know how that play would have turned out, but that is showing a ton of respect for the Saints defense.
My only thing, like, normally I would be going insane if a team did that, but like in the way this game was played, it feels like both sides should have trusted their defense more than their offense. So if you're like putting the game in someone's hands, I understand it. In hindsight, like, maybe, I don't know, it's just tough. That's probably one that like the analytics will probably skew the other way, but that's like, when they say gut feeling, flow of the game, all that stuff, like there is a practical explanation for why they would do that. But yeah, I mean, it says everything about the way that game was being played.
If we were covering the Titans, though, we would be up in arms.
That's all we'd be talking about right now.
It's like, how many times do fans talk about like a team going for a tie? Like, why don't you go for 2? This was like another step that I don't think I've ever experienced. I don't think I've covered a game where a team didn't just go to win it in that situation because they thought they wouldn't get any points at all. I mean, it's week 1. Why would you not try?
Well, I think it's a third down stat.
Yeah.
You didn't convert it all on third down, so why is it going to work now on fourth down? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like,
but you got to have the belief in your team. Like, that says something about maybe this Tennessee team that they need to look inward.
Well, I think it says that they didn't have belief in the team. I mean, it is
well,
kind of
here is the one thing that they did have belief in, and we're going to obviously get into this because this was not a perfect win. They ran out of here, hopped on the bus.
There's a reason we started with defense.
But the reason I realized, what are they doing? Oh, I know what they're doing, was because when the Saints got the ball and it was 1st and 10, and you're like, oh, the Saints can't run the ball. Like, you think run, timeout, run, timeout, run, timeout. the Saints were never going to run for a first down today. Jamal Williams' first 17 carries today went for 34 yards. I've seen some bad run days for the Saints, but the Titans knew, well, since they can't run against us, we're going to give them the ball back with 2.5 minutes and dare them to throw it. And we will talk a lot about how that turned out for the Saints. It turned out very well for the Saints. But that was the one thing that Mike Vrabel did trust, was that the Saints would not be able to run against his defense. They did not do that successfully all day long.
Yeah.
You know, the one duo I was not expecting in week 1, let alone this season at all, was the Demario Davis-Allante Taylor duo here. I mean, we've been talking with Allante Taylor about working in the slot, where his confidence level is out. If you remember, how often does he talk about, well, when you're in the slot, you have your help, and you need to know where your help is. Demario Davis was there to clean up anything. Allante Taylor might have, still been hanging on and not brought a guy down. Demario Davis was there to, slam the guy down. Demario Davis led the team with 10 tackles. Do we feel good, though, about Allante Taylor in the slot after this game? Because truly, Demario Davis did clean up a lot of that.
Yeah, I need to see more, and I think it probably looks better right now. And I think when we go back and review it, I think there's going to be some warts on it. There were a few things that I thought I saw, but I'm not comfortable enough to kind of say he did these things wrong until getting more eyes on it. But I think that he was solid. I think he had some big plays. There were a few.
Yeah, he had a couple pass breakups that were really awesome.
Yeah, he had a few great tackles. I saw a missed tackle at one point. I think that, for somebody starting in that position, learning, having to grow, having to get better, I think it was a very, very good debut. Now, if you're comparing it against the best slot corners in the league, I bet there's probably a lot of warts on it, but he's going to get there. He's going to keep getting better. Yeah. And I think coming out here for the first game, I think it was a very, very solid performance, and I bet he's probably feeling more good than bad about how he played today.
He started off with his worst play. I think the first time he was tested with the penalty that kept the Titans on the field. But then he came back strong, and you talk about Allante Taylor's confidence. We've talked forever about his fire and his energy on the field. He made a couple of those open field stops where he was the only guy hitting, and one time had to hold on to the leg, but where he did finish it off all by himself. And with each one, he was more and more fired up, and then just the fact that DeAndre Hopkins didn't have a big day against Marshon Lattimore, but there were a couple times where they put Hopkins in the slot and they wanted to test that matchup too, and they didn't find anything working there either. So when you do go watch the tape, there will probably be some situations where you'll see that he didn't let Hopkins break open when they tried to create that matchup, since I don't remember watching it closely a lot, but I just know the results were they never took advantage of what could have been a mismatch. So he was obviously doing a lot right. Anybody playing on this defense today was doing a lot of things.
If I was an ultra detailed coach, though, there was a moment in this game with Allante. He brought someone down by the compression shirt, and if he dude had just been wearing a cotton T-shirt, the shirt would have let go, and he would have been going down the field. We've seen so many times people trying to make tackles in the shirt phrase, and they're just going down the field. I would be in my locker room being you guys can't wear this. If you're gonna wear an undershirt, it needs to be something that can tear away.
I will also have to say the things that could have happened. This is the one thing we will say was a knock against the defense. There were 2 plays today. There was the flea flicker that worked perfectly. They had wide open, and then the Ty J. Spears down the field. Or was Ty J. Spears the one on the flea flicker? There were 2 times Ty J. Spears was on the other sideline, wide open, and Tannehill missed both of those throws. Both of them were drawn up, and the Saints defense got fooled by whatever they were trying to fool them on. I don't know if the film review will make it clear who screwed up on both of those, but there was a wide open receiver, 6 points, and Tannehill missed both times. So the Saints got away with a couple too. But when you make your own luck, as they say,
we got to give some love to the big fellas. The defensive line, which we have kind of circled in and put a question mark around it, was this new philosophy with the defensive line gonna work? I think yes. After this game, we saw good things. We actually saw a lot of Brian Brzee in this game, him rotating in and out. He seemed to be a factor as well.
I thought they played pretty great up front. There was consistent pressure. They only had 3 sacks, but they affected so many plays. Tannehill really couldn't stand back there and do a lot of stuff. As we said, they were in there creating some of these interceptions, definite assists for the guys up front. I need to see more and more and more evidence. So, because they went against a Titans offensive line, as you pointed out earlier this week, they had 4 new starters, 5th guy was in a new spot. So it's not the staunchest test in the world. It could potentially be a pretty weak group, and that might become more apparent over time. But you can only judge off of what we've seen. And I thought what we saw in the very first exposure was about as good as it possibly could have been for this group. So, yeah, I'm more up on them than I was coming into it, but I'm not ready to build the statue and declare it a problem solved.
The pressure they were getting on Tannehill looked like the pressure we've seen all summer. And unfortunately, Peyton Turner left early with a toe injury, so I don't know how long he'll be sidelined. So he wasn't a big part of that. But everyone else, Carl Granderson, Brian Brzee, Cam Jordan had the 2 batted passes in addition to all the pressures. And my biggest fear with this team was if there were any discipline issues in the run defense, this team would expose them. And there weren't. There were times they didn't set the edge. Granderson, Tano a couple times got swallowed up. Demario Davis got swallowed up one time when Derrick Henry got around the corner. But there wasn't a lot of they got gashed up the middle because they left that gap open. I almost don't remember any of those, actually.
Yeah, my only thing, like on the pressure we saw all summer, we saw how bad the Saints offensive line was. So, like, I got a grain of salt on that now, too. But, yeah, they did a lot of good work this summer. They did good work here. I think it's safe to say that they're potentially on the right track. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good start for them for sure.
We listed on social media our defense collectively is our player of the game presented by Harhide Strawberry Whiskey. But if we had to go with one, it's got to be Blake Grupe. He went 3 for 3. A lot was riding on Blake Grupe. Could he be the guy that comes in after Will Lutz's long career here in New Orleans and be the guy? He proved that. He was good from 26, 33, and 52. And kept this game alive.
And an extra point. I mean, add it in there because, I mean, the Saints win. I mean, I hate to make the comparison,
but you have to.
Will Lutz missed an extra point and a field goal
and
today
it cost them the game.
In a 1-point loss, and Grupe made all his kicks in a 1-point win. I mean, that decision mattered in week 1.
They already made the right decision. I mean, you got a game out of it, and the guy you let go lost this team. I mean, it's just hard not to say it. I mean, he was the right choice. I mean, there's a lot of football to be played here, but Blake Grupe won him a game today.
And that doesn't – look, he could go in Carolina, he can miss a game. That doesn't mean they made the wrong choice. He's going to make 80 to 85% of his kicks. That means if he kicks 50 times, he's going to miss 7 kicks, or you know what I mean? If he, whatever the – now I'm doing the math or whatever, but he will miss kicks. We're not saying he's perfect, and we're not saying they made the wrong choice if they didn't, but he might not face this much pressure his first game, and it was every kick mattered in this game for both teams because points were at such a premium.
Yeah, guy was a monster today.
Yeah, and look, don't worry. We're going to get to the offense. We're going to get to Derek Carr's debut here in the Dome, Michael Thomas being back. But we're not done with the defense yet. Our money segment presented by Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union. Our money guy in this game, Marshon Lattimore, he was incredible. He was a difference maker in this game. Getting the job of defending DeAndre Hopkins is never easy. We saw him shut him down in 2019, and he did it again, probably in greater fashion. I think he held D-Hop to roughly 50 yards back in 2019. He held him to less than 30 yards, only 2 catches allowed. It was a big factor when you have a Derrick Henry. Like you've got 2 guys to account for that are just monsters and in the top 5, arguably, in their position groups in the NFL. For him to be able to shut him down and what the defense was able to do around Marshon Lattimore with him playing that well. Marshon Lattimore could really make a difference just this season with the team if he continues to play like that week after week.
Oh, man, it's the biggest cheat code in the whole NFL if you have a cornerback that can do what he does on a consistent basis. And that's just the story with Marshon throughout his career. Can he be this guy every single week? Last year he started making efforts towards that, like getting up for receivers that nobody's ever heard about. He covered them the same way that he would cover a D-Hop. So
to be found out next week against Carolina, who might have the worst receiving core.
Yeah.
I think he's going to show up, though. Like he's on a mission to be one of the best of all time. That's what he wants to be. He knows he has a talent. He doesn't want to disrespect that talent by not being that. I asked him about it today. He's like, this is the type of performance that, puts me on that path.
Yeah.
So he knows. And it was 24 yards. One of them was a 9-yard slant. The other one was a 15-yard outbreaking route. Marshon, slipped in the middle of the field. In the first one that he gave up, the coverage was amazing. It was the best pass that Tannehill threw. He was elite today. That is a masterclass in playing cornerback. That is as good as you can possibly be. He smoked that matchup. The only thing he didn't do is right here he dropped potentially a game-sealing pick that would have closed the game out. And he probably would have ran it back for a score if he got his hands on it. But outside of that, man, it was unbelievable watching him work. When he's playing like that, it's the most enjoyable thing you're going to see on a football field.
And look, we got to credit everybody because Treylon Burks, we talked about him. At halftime, I checked to be like, wait, was he inactive? Did that injury flare up? He wasn't targeted in the first half, and obviously he was going against other guys like Paulson Adebo. None of their receivers, their only effective pass plays were 2 to Derrick Henry, really, in this game. And a lot of those sacks, I mean, again, without the hindsight of going through and reviewing each one, but a lot of them felt a little bit like coverage sacks, even though the pressure was getting there. Tannehill had 3-4 seconds before the pocket really collapsed on him. He just had nowhere to go all day long.
And they played man almost the whole game. Brooke pointed it out, like they were in cover one, like first and second down, then they go to their dime package and they'd have 2 deep. Like they were able to do that and then bring someone in the box. And as we said on the last show, like that's a difference maker with Derrick Henry, and they didn't have to sacrifice anything in coverage because Marshon is just that dude. Like he just really is.
Yeah, they were just confident top to bottom. But how about our moment of the game presented by New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company? Here's the situation. About 1:46 left to play. It's 3rd and 6. The Saints are up 16-15 at this point. Derek Carr launches a ball to Rashid Shahid, and he hauls in the pass for the first down. And, of course, the Saints go on to win it 5 plays later. Mike, we know that you went in detail about that. What did we learn about that play?
Well, I wrote a lot about that today because, look, we were talking about what we were going to write about, win or lose in this game, and the offensive struggles were a big part of this game, and I'm sure we'll continue to discuss it. But on that drive, as we said, after Vrabel gave them the ball back, they were facing a 2nd and 14, and it felt like, well, this is over. I mean, they're going to punt in 2 downs. They throw the 8-yard crossing pass to Michael Thomas, which takes some trust. It's a low-risk pass, but if it falls incomplete for any reason, you stop the clock. And then they throw the 41-yard pass to Rashid Shahid that obviously the Titans didn't think they were going to throw because they caught former LSU corner Christian Fulton stuck in his tracks. And that wasn't even a sophisticated play design. The touchdown back here to Rashid Shahid was sophisticated. Mm-hmm. That was Derek Carr took 3 steps, and he was just like – and he even said on the sideline, he told Pete Carmichael, him and Pete had been talking about it all day. I love this play. We're going to get to it on the drive. He told Rashid Shahid before that drive, he goes, we're calling this play on this drive. You just run as fast as you can. And that was the whole design of that play, which is they don't think we're going to throw it, and we're going to show them. You run, and I will throw it to you. And there was a tense moment when the officials had to review whether he got his feet in. But he was open by 3 yards. And to have that trust in it, it's a good sign. Not only is it a good sign in Derek Carr that he can make those big plays, he was struggling in the red zone early. He called himself dumb for an interception he threw. It was a terrible interception. Mm-hmm. But he can make those big plays in big moments. And, again, just – he was talking about the conversations he was having with Pete Carmichael throughout the game, getting to the plays he liked, one that they had talked about for weeks, one that they talked about on the sideline before the final drive. We talked about that Carmichael partnership being really important to this team, and that was passing a pretty intense test early in the season.
Absolutely. And look, we talk about the offense not having a good day top to bottom. Like, there were some good things, but Rashid Shahid didn't have an overall good game. I mean, he really struggled in special teams in pretty much the first half, even bleeding a little bit into the second half. But when it mattered most and when he needed to show up, he was there, obviously, for the touchdown and then the game-saving play. So still a question mark around Shahid heading into week 2?
Yeah, I think there's going to be those ups and downs with him a little bit, too. He's missed a lot of time. He's talked openly about how he had trouble, like, learning the playbook last year, and he was still trying to pick things up this year. I think as he settles in and just gets more and more reps under him, we'll see that growth. I was just a little bit surprised with, like, some of the miscues in special teams. Yeah. Like, you know, that was a great play to start the game to take the ball away, but, like, you just can't allow that to happen. There was, like, a really risky play where I think he was fortunate the ball made its way to the end zone. Like, their kicker was putting it on the 2 every single time, and, like, he just kind of, like, and it just barely hit in the end zone. Could have been a colossal mistake, but I think he's going to be a great player for this team. I'm high on his potential. I think he just has to get consistent and be in there and make mistakes, correct them, continue to grow. He
also had the one where his momentum took him out of bounds, so they started on the 11 or whatever, but all of his miscues to me were on special teams. The one catch he didn't make in the end zone was actually a really great effort. He almost stayed in bounds on a throw that was like practically a throwaway, gave him barely a chance at it. He had, I wish I had the number right in front of me, I think it was 5 catches for 89 yards. He had 2 nice jet sweep runs, one that was ruined by Keith Kirkwood holding on that. 7 touches for him in this first game after all the time he missed. I was projecting a lot. I didn't know he was going to be such a big part of the offense. And even after his early miscues, they went to him as much as they went to. I mean, Chris Olave had more targets and more catches, but 7 touches, I think it was, nearly 100 yards total offense. The only touchdown of the game, the biggest play of the game. They're showing a lot of faith in him. So if they're going to show that kind of faith and opportunity, then that maturity will be on fast forward.
Yeah, they shared the wealth on offense in this game. It wasn't just Rashid Shahid. As you mentioned, it was Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, Jawan Johnson, Taysom Hill getting in on the action as well.
Barely.
Do we think though that it is more or less going to be by committee, and not just like one guy is going to break out in a game?
Yeah, look, I think they all had pretty similar amount of catches in this game. Like Mike had the lowest yards, but he had 5 catches and a good amount of targets. And, these other guys play a little bit further down the field. So it's going to spread it out. Some days they're going to roll the coverage to Allante and Rashid, and Mike might have way more targets. Some days Mike might have it as Shahid keeps doing, making these big plays. You're going to have to count for him, and now maybe somebody else has things opened up. I don't think it's necessarily going to be like 2018, 2019, where Mike Thomas is just this like massive target monster, and then everybody else is filling in around him. I think they're going into it, and there's 8 slices of pizza, 3 guys. Like one guy's going to get 2, and the other guys are going to get 3.
Yeah, and I think the tight ends will get more involved. I mean, we didn't see anything really designed for Jimmy Graham. We didn't barely see anything designed for Taysom Hill, even though the yardage totals were there. It was all on a handful of plays. I mean, this offense, this is not how they want this offense to run this year. They survived this game. I wrote about this in the first half. The reason why, and we're going to talk about Trevor Penning later. I know everybody's wondering why we're not screaming that he needs to be benched. He had a really rough first half. But in the first half, Derek Carr faced 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15. Because they couldn't run the ball, because of some sloppy penalties. Those are the worst downs in the world, and the Titans were teeing off on him on those downs. They didn't convert any of them. He was getting hit on them. He was getting sacked on them. You do not ever want to operate. And so all the big plays that Shahid made were on 3rd and long. Michael Thomas, clutch on 3rd and long.
Yeah.
Chris Olave saving them with those well-designed plays out of the middle. Often on 3rd and long. Like, it felt like every big passing play was a moment of desperation today.
Right.
It never felt.
Yeah, it seems like the Saints offense just could never take control. But we're going to hit a quick break. But after this, when we come back, we're talking the return of Michael Thomas, Derek Carr's first time in the Superdome. What's going on with Trevor Penning? That's a big question mark, as well as the red zone. And can Derek Carr maybe change how he impacts when the Saints are in the red zone next week when they're in Carolina? We'll have all of that after this.
Now, at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company, get our $10.99 shrimp remoulade combos with zesty shrimp remoulade and fried shrimp or catfish for only $10.99. And did you hear? Soft-shelled crabs are back at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company.
Are you tired of renting and ready to own your dream home? Contact Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union, your trusted source for home loans. Our competitive rates and flexible terms can help make your home ownership dreams a reality. If you're a first-time home buyer or looking to refinance, our experienced lenders are here to help. Our online application process allows you to apply on your schedule. It's quick, easy, and convenient. Visit us online at jeffersonfinancial.org to learn more. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
At Toro, we were born for moments like this. From bringing new bundles of joy into the world, to delivering what new mothers need to stay healthy. Born to keep hearts beating strong, and to keep seniors active and healthy for years to come. Because at Toro, we deliver more than babies. From heart care to cancer care, and newborns to seniors, at Toro, we're born to care.
Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and much, much more. They are family owned and operated since 1946 and specialize in wine, spirits, gourmet food, gift baskets, catering, and tasting events. They have many locations, so they're never too far away. You can check them out in Metairie, New Orleans, Mandeville, and Baton Rouge, or if it's more convenient, you can always shop online. Whether you're a wine novice or a seasoned collector, you'll enjoy the Martin Wine and Spirit experience.
I'll take a New Orleans Saints scratch up. Play New Orleans Saints from the lottery. Just scratch, fold, and punch your way to winnings. Punch your ticket with New Orleans Saints. Win up to $100,000. Enter our second chance drawings, giving you a season to smile.
Welcome back to the mobile Toro Hospital studio. We are here in the Dome after the Saints beat the Titans 16-15 in week 1. We had the return of Michael Thomas. He looked just about as confident as we expected him to be in week 1. We'll see how he continues to progress. As we mentioned, they shared the wealth on offense in this first game. We'll see if it returns to him being heavily targeted, but it was just good to see him back out here. And even Derek Carr mentioned in post-game on the one play, the one big play Michael Thomas had, he was like, just throw it up, like I'll take the hit. For him to be confident in like his body and being physically able to make a big play like that when you've got two guys in coverage, it's saying a lot about where he's at.
Yeah, I thought he looked awesome today, and the play you're talking about was a huge moment for him.
Yeah.
He kind of got hit high-low for a
High
guy
and
that's
low, yeah.
a guy that's had like these leg problems and that, just to bounce up and see it. That has to be like somewhat confidence building for him too, just to go through that and be like, okay, I'm good, and I'm good to go. I mean, I think we can confidently say that, you know, all the talk about Mike being washed was incorrect. Like, he definitely is not washed. He's an effective player. He can get open. He's going to do the things he does, and he's going to be a part of this offense as long as he's on the field and healthy. You can't take that for granted with him. You know, it's just not part of the story this year. Like, there's never going to be a point where I think anyone's going to be like, oh, Mike's definitely not going to get hurt this year. Like, you just can't think that. But as far as him being on the field, he's going to produce. He's going to get open. He's going to run his routes. And I talked to a former Saints player, played in the secondary, and we were, like, going through the video. And he's like, look, man, like, just stop. Like, when he gets on the field, Mike Thomas is going to be Mike Thomas. He's like, he looks weird in practice sometimes. And he's like, you just give that competitiveness, and he just becomes a monster. And that's who he was. He came out here, and he just looked like Mike Thomas today.
Yeah, the Mike Wash talk, obviously we never thought he was washed, but we did wonder, like, we saw rust, you know, early in training camp. And one thing that we saw for a few weeks in training camp was almost the first play of every team drill. It felt like Derek Carr really wanted to get him going. And they couldn't connect on that first one. They were trying to – and then the first play of the season is that, like, thread the needle pass to Mike on the sideline, and he catches that. And it was just like, oh, well – you know, if we've been seeing that from week 1, everybody would have been talking about Mike's back, you know, like it would have been the opposite conversation. But, yeah, he had to make a couple contested catches. They went to him on that gotta have it second and 14 throw where anything that hits the ground, I mean, that has to be caught. They throw it to Mike. I mean, there's just no question that he is going to be targeted at this rate every week. The defenses are going to have to respect his ability to do this every week. And this is going to be a huge part of the offense as long as he's here.
I mean, look, there's a difference between rust and washed. Like,
rust,
like okay, like we assumed at some point they were going to go down to Home Depot and get a can of WD-40 and everything was going to be okay. And you know, it was just, I don't know, it was just good to see him play football and be effective out there.
But and we've been talking about the red zone and Derek Carr just not looking effective in that area of the field. He's got to start finding Michael Thomas in the red zone. They were 1 of 4. We actually posted it, the one route where Michael Thomas was wide open. Was it on the first drive?
Yeah.
The very first drive, he was open on the corner of the end zone, and Derek Carr just missed him. That connection needs to be found with those two in the red zone.
He missed Mike twice. Like on the one he went to Kirkwood too. He was coming open over the middle on a crossing route. And
Michael Thomas wide open in the red zone.
Yeah, you got to get the ball.
I mean, you got to get him.
You got to get the ball.
He addressed the Kirkwood one after, because the Kirkwood throw was so weird that I asked him. I go, "Were you trying to draw the penalty?" Because Kirkwood did look like he got held coming out of his break, and he said he had pressure in his face. He said he wanted to get to Mike, but basically threw that where no one was going to catch it. So that's why that one looked. But there were some that there's no explanation for why they look so funny. And it's uncanny. I mean, this is a thing that has haunted Derek Carr. And it doesn't, like, make perfect X's and O's sense. I'm like, why are you good down the field and then you're not as good in the red zone? And this game played out just like that. He was getting them to the red zone every time.
It's like a wall was up.
And then he was making worse decisions and worse throws. It was very weird. But then he obviously finally got over that hump with the only touchdown of the game. That was a red zone throw to Shahid. So I need more time before I believe that's a stat that he can't overcome. It feels like a little bit of a random stat to me. If you're a good quarterback, you can be a good quarterback in the red zone. If you have Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, obviously Rashid Shahid, Jimmy Graham,
Jawan,
all the options
even,
that he has here, I'll need to see weeks and weeks of that being a real problem before I totally believe it's something that can't be overcome. But it was a little unfortunate that that's how this started, with the offense stalling in the red zone multiple times today.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like he was like forced to go on a move on a handful of them too. So there was some pressure throws on the move, maybe not his strongest suit. I don't know. I got to see more too, but it's tough when that is the narrative and then you come into the game and that's how it plays out. So it's just, it lends a little credence to what you heard, but I'm not buying it yet. But it's something to keep an eye on for sure.
I think specifically in this game, not having a balanced attack, I think, was a lot of the reason why it affected him in the red zone. Maybe you change the look there. I'm not Pete Carmichael. I'm not an offensive coordinator, but maybe you put Taysom Hill and make a decision in the red zone and just switch it up so you can have Derek Carr maybe catch a breather. I don't know what it's going to take, but when you're not effectively running the football, it's almost like he's thinking like, all right, well, the defense is going to set up in a way where they know I'm just going to throw it when I'm in the red zone. And so he's in his head, I'm sure, throughout the flow of the game. He got beat up, too, in this game,
those
too.
Those third and longs, nobody wants to have to operate out of those third and longs. Nobody's going to win that way. And, look, we saw 2 offensive line that stunk today. And I talked about how I thought it was going to be hard for the defense to tackle Derrick Henry after you don't play physical all preseason. This looked like 2 offensive lines that had not played physical football all preseason.
Right.
I mean, the only thing worse than the Saints' offensive line was the Titans' offensive line today. And that's another one that I need more evidence before I believe. I like the Saints starting 5 offensive linemen, and we'll talk more about Penning, who's a work in progress, but this should be a unit that can have success running the ball. And they didn't today, but this was the number 1 run defense in the NFL last year, and I think they were number 2 the year before that. And Jeffrey Simmons is probably the best player that nobody talks about in the NFL. He is a monster, and his presence was felt today in the middle of that Titans defensive line. So they are going to face easier tests than this, but they sure better be able to run the ball better than they did today because this offense is going nowhere if the run game looks half as bad.
Yeah, at what point does Jamal Williams stop just running straight? I mean, be a little bit dynamic, right? I mean, if you realize the offensive line is getting no push in the run game, and I even credited him at the beginning of the game when he bounced off one of the, backsides of the offensive lineman and he spun around and went where there was open space. I don't understand the forcing the issue when it's just not working. I know you're going to continue to run the football. I'm not saying stop running the football, but be a little bit more dynamic on moving side to side, finding space and getting forward when you know that you're the only back that's truly in right now. Like you had Kirk Merritt and Tony Jones Jr., but I believe Jamal Williams is probably a little bit more dynamic and quicker than they are.
Yeah, he definitely is, but I also think that he's probably the type of back that's just going to get the yardage that's blocked, and when you go out there and you look at it, if you see 6 yards of space, he's going to get 6 yards of space. I don't think he's that type of back that's going to kind of take you beyond and be the person that makes it. He's just kind of what he is. He's a second-tier running back. He's a guy that plays behind the star running back. And that's just kind of the performance that you're going to get out of him. He's forced into a role right now where they're kind of leaning on him a little bit more than you probably should be leaning on him. I think even if Kendre Miller was playing, I bet you Kendre Miller's a more dynamic running back than Jamal Williams is. So
we've seen that during the preseason.
Yeah, I think he's just going to kind of be what he is, and he's not going to be the super creative, he's someone that can get hard yardage that's blocked, and maybe if he gets 6 yards and he gets to 7, it's because he's running through somebody, because that's the type of back he is. But he's not going to dance around and make people miss. It's just I don't think that's really in his bag of tricks.
Poor thing, he saw the end zone. He saw the end zone on that last one. He finally got through. He got an 11-yard run, and he was like, I wanted that touchdown so bad. He goes, but I knew that I had to get down, and so we could kneel victory formation, run out the clock. He almost had one highlight to take away from an otherwise tough game.
A big reason why the run game was not necessarily working probably had a little bit to do with the offensive line not getting a lot of push, and also Trevor Penning not having the best game, which gets to our Martin Wine and Spirits question of the day. Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrel-select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Week 1 Optical asks, is it baptism by fire? Surely it's not Pete's inability to recognize a glaring mismatch on Trevor Penning and not give him help on every single snap or make the switch.
They did give him help late in the game. They were bringing him some help. But, yeah, I'm a little scared. I'm a little worried about what we saw today. It felt – look, after the one preseason game, I pointed out, I was like, I think he has some issue with speed. Arden Key's kind of a guy with some speed. He had a lot of issues with him. The first half, it felt like he wasn't blocking at all. It was like he was constantly in the backfield. I counted 7 pressures, 2 sacks. We'll see again, going through the film, how that holds up. But it was rough. I mean, this was bad. It was – looking at James Hurst and thinking, should you move Hurst over and put Pete in? Bad. I'm not making that move yet, but if I'm on this coaching staff and we're sitting in that meeting room tomorrow, I'm starting the conversation. I'm saying, hey, what do we need to see to not do this? Because it is something that could derail the season if he doesn't get fast in a hurry. And I'm not being dramatic here. It was that bad. He was a game-losing player today. He was a net negative. It was maybe one of the worst blocking performances I've seen in a long time.
I look forward to your film review because I want to know how effective the changes they made, the adjustments they made in the second half were. Results-wise, I mean, I didn't feel like I was noticing Trevor Penning as the guy screwing things up in the second half. Dennis Allen said they did more chips, gave him more help, and obviously that seemed to work. You don't want to have to do that, but against a speed rusher, when you're facing 6 third and longs in the first half, that's you can't operate that way. So you use the word baptism by fire in that question, and it reminds me of what we were talking about with Rashid Shahid, though, these are young guys without a lot of experience who've missed a lot of off-season time. So the only way that he gets better and he ends up delivering on that potential is if he gets snaps. So they don't want to give up on him too early. He should be able to only get better at that, but yeah, you've got to put a clock on it.
The little bit of a different, like if Shahid messes up, he's dropping a pass and they lose the game. If Trevor Penning messes up, their $150 million quarterback takes an injury. I mean, there's really no room for patience. Either you are protecting the quarterback or you are setting him up to get injured. You can't play around with that. It's like a 2-week issue, and if that's still an issue, then you got to start figuring out, okay, how do we develop him behind the scenes to where he's not putting anybody in danger?
Unlike when I said they won't be tested by Carolina's receivers next week, they are facing Brian Burns next week.
Terrifying.
I think the more concerning thing, and this might be Dennis Allen not wanting Trevor Penning to feel like he's lost faith or hope in him, but him saying in postgame, Dennis Allen said he is not concerned about Trevor Penning, which to me is concerning.
Don't do that,
That's
Brooke.
concerning.
Don't do that, Brooke.
He said it. Look. Whether we want to believe it or not, I know.
Watching the film and recognizing
but
it's a problem.
don't say that. Why do you have to say it? When you're asked about Trevor Penning, maybe just, I don't know, be a little bit honest. Like, yeah, he did struggle, but he's missed a lot of off-season time, and we hope to see more from him next week. Don't just say you're not concerned.
I'm gonna give
that's a bold-faced lie.
I mean, it is. It's definitely a bold-faced lie. I'm gonna give DA the benefit of the doubt, though. In there are guys where he goes hard at him.
Yeah.
Like he went hard at Marshon today for not being in. Like he said he had to come out because he was winded and gassed. He's like, he's missed a lot of time. Marshon's probably somebody that can take hard coaching.
Yeah.
Like maybe Penning's a pat you on the back guy, and maybe that's what he's doing there.
He was the first one. Before he gave that answer, though, he sort of threw Penning under the bus when he was talking about the pass rush in general. He goes, we had to give some help to that side, to Penning's side. Like he said it before he got asked about it. I mean, and they coach their coaching decisions let you know they recognize what a problem it is. So
I guarantee
when
they're
a coach
concerned.
says, I'm not concerned about him, I know what type of player he is, I know he's going to work hard, that doesn't mean keep doing what you're doing. Means I'm just supporting the guy saying, come on, you can fight through this.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they don't recognize
He's
got to
get called out a little bit for that, though.
Yeah, I mean,
you
I
can't
agree
say
with
you're
that,
not
though.
concerned.
Yeah, you can't say I have zero concern. No,
I guarantee
you're scared. You're going home and talking
DA's
about
going to keep us honest, so we got to keep him honest.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
For sure.
Well, hopefully that's not what he's saying to Trevor. I have zero concerns about you, buddy.
Hey, hopefully that's not what they're saying about special teams. Special teams was another major concern in this game, and you've got the penalties pulled up as well. Yeah,
three special teams penalties today. Two holdings on returns. One that didn't count because Rashid Shahid fumbled anyway, but that was a holding on the opening kickoff return. They had the illegal formation on the field goal. Reminds me of last year. Special teams blunders. Opening kickoff. Special teams blunder. I mean, it's only 3 penalties, but can't have it. Can't have it. And there's a lot of new guys on special teams this year, and I guess that was driven home a little bit. Getting JT Gray back will be nice, but that can't be the stuff that derails this team. We've had enough of that the last couple of years with this team.
Well, the dome never got as loud as it did after that. Jimmy Graham Who Dat chant might go down in history as the loudest and best one that we have probably seen in recent years. All the momentum, so loud in the dome, that happens, and it was like, and then it took so long to make the decision. The dome just never got as loud as it did. I mean, it really took the air out of it.
Oh, that was a crazy scene. That was unbelievable. It was awesome. Yeah, look, the only thing I would say good about special teams, though, is like the 2 major areas of concern, field goals and punts.
Yeah.
Both were extremely on point today, but way too sloppy, especially for a guy. Darren Rizzi's like one of the most highly regarded special teams coaches in the NFL. Like, you just can't have those mistakes.
Yeah, well, wasn't perfect, but they got the win in week 1 over a very good Titans defense. I don't want to say a very good Titans offense, just the Saints absolutely dominated them, and we'll see what happens if anybody wants to pay attention to what the Titans do the rest of the year. We're going to be paying attention to the Saints in week 2. They've got a Monday night matchup in Carolina taking on the Panthers, which means the schedule will likely change a little bit this week, but we'll see you guys next time.